Hey, and welcome to summer, even though many of us feel like summer's almost past. So glad that you've joined us. We're also kicking it off in a brand new kitchen, so we've got lots of fun things to talk about. I'm Pam Smith, this is Nicole, and we are here to show you how to mix up, put together, serve up a really delicious dish, one that we're really excited about.
I know, tonight we're making Smokey Southern oven fried chicken, which means baked, but it's kind of a crunchy bake.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to show that technique. We're gonna put it over a buttermilk, an amazing buttermilk, Caesar salad, and for a bonus, decided to do some Smokey Southern deviled eggs.
Well, we did because, it just seems so right. It seems so right for the season. It seems so right. I mean, everybody's always thinking, should I be making deviled eggs? It seems like a retro blast from the past, but they're so trendy and cool. People are doing everything from putting little jalapeno peppers or candied bacon in them. We're going to do some classic ones, but classic with the twist because it's Smokey Southern.
I know, and Smokey Southern is kind of our feature for tonight. If you haven't joined us for a class yet, you'll find that each class we do features one PS flavor spice, and tonight is Smokey Southern. Now we try to use other ones so that you can pull more from your pantry, more spices, more flavor. And in case you don't know, Pam Smith is the PS in PS flavor. So we get to watch her tonight. She's our chef. She's also my mom. And we get to do this together, so we're really excited, but we're excited that you're joining us. If you haven't yet, you have a recipe, a grocery list, a prep sheet, all in the Facebook group that you're at right now. It's in the Files tab. And if you're cooking along with us and you haven't printed out the recipe or you don't have your summer booklets, you will want to do that just in case you have any technical problems. Just in case we have any technical problems. It happens.
It's happened.
It has
before.
happened.
Yes, it has.
And it's happened to some of you. You've told us, but it actually turns out to be a great time to kind of catch up, and then you can jump back on. So our goal, no stress cooking, no stress kitchen. The prep sheet will guide you in everything you want to do before starting to watch. So if you haven't done your prep yet, watch, get a feel for everything, and then you can go back and do it. But if you've already been prepping, you're ready to cook and you're probably ready to eat. So we probably want to get the oven, 375.
Yeah, we just turned ours on right before we started. So if yours isn't on yet, definitely go get it set at 375. What we're going to do first is get our croutons in so that we can get those nice and toasty and kind of golden brown and delicious. We'll keep it at 375 and then we'll move on to our oven fried chicken, as Nicole said. We're sitting here holding this glass. This is a rosé. You know that with every one of our monthly times together, we always suggest a PAM'S pairing, and today I had suggested a Vinho Verde from Portugal or a really beautiful rosé, and that's what we're having. So with that, cheers. We're going to have a very fun time. Cheers to you. Hopefully you'll be able to sip a bit, cook a bit, taste a bit, and really find that this is a dish that's so versatile that you can take it into so many different ventures and so many different kinds of venues, and we'll talk about that as we go.
Yeah, and I'm going to go grab the camera.
Okay.
We have heard from you all that you really like close-ups of the food while Pam is cooking. So I do what I call the Nicole cam. So I'm going to go over, and if you have any questions that come up while we're cooking, just type it out, and Spice Girl Kim is at the computer. She will read your question, you'll get an answer from Pam, and we can just keep cooking.
Yeah, as we go. I love the stress-free cooking zone. I think that's really cool. So again, keep it cool, keep it fun, and we're excited to get your questions and give you some answers, not just tonight, but in the weeks that follow. So very fun time. So did you ever take a sip?
I did.
Did you? Great. Okay, fantastic. That was my ploy,
to
try to do the same thing.
Good.
I know, always so good. So again, welcome to our new kitchen. We've been on quite a little venture doing a little bit of renovation, and any of you that have done so probably can feel our pain, hence why we were a few few seconds delayed or more getting started because little things like, where are the bowls? Where are those plates? How about those cooking utensils? So anyway, we've got it together. We're really excited, and again, so excited you joined us. As promised, we're gonna start this kind of with the end in mind a bit. The croutons are something that you could even have done the day before or the day before. They keep quite nicely in just a airtight Tupperware container. Will hold for you really nice and crunchy, upwards of 4 to 5 days. But if you're doing them fresh, all the better. That's what we're going to be doing tonight because they're still a little warm, still a little crunchy, crispy when they come out of the oven. Easy to do. You can use any kind of bread. I like to use a really crusty whole grain bread. This is one that has a whole lot of seeds, and I'm using a beautiful, as you all know, we're really crazy about Cutco knives, and we love what their cutlery does for us. I'm going to be using the petite slicer, not only to be slicing these croutons into their appropriate sizes, but also later to slice up the romaine and the kale. Again, destined to be a favorite, and just a little spoiler alert, this is also the knife that you're going to have an opportunity to win in the giveaway, which Nicole will talk about a little bit later in a beautiful summer white color. So with this, I'm just going to slice this almost as if it was a red pepper. I'm just taking some nice slices. I'm going to cut first the slices into long planks, and then going to just do a little turn, and then I'll continue it to cut it into some nice crouton shapes. You can cut it into strips. You can make these pretty much whatever size or shape that you would like. Again, this slicer just kind of does what it's meant to do, and it just kind of slices right through, which is great. Afterwards, we're gonna get these croutons into a bowl. I'm gonna drizzle with just a little touch of olive oil, and then because this is all about Smokey Southern, we're gonna add the Smokey Southern seasoning right to this. Smokey Southern is a blending, if you haven't had it before, that, again, I just get all excited about because it is so smoky. It's a blend of smoked paprika, which is not just beautifully anti-inflammatory, but also works to just give this delightful, again, sensation and aromatics that come into the dish. You're going to find it in layers of flavor all the way through. In addition to the smoked paprika, there's a little touch of lemon, there's a little touch of black pepper and garlic and onion. It's amazing. Going to add 2 teaspoons to these croutons. Going to give those just a nice little toss, and then get them right onto a sheet pan. All that's gonna happen is that Smokey Southern, that little touch of olive oil is gonna be cooking right into these croutons. As I said, I already have the oven set on 375. So once we get those laid out onto the pan, we'll slip them right into the oven. And these will cook pretty quickly, about 8 minutes or so. So we'll keep a little bit of an eye on them. It should be about the same amount of time that we'll be working to do our chicken. And so I'm going to use the same dish. Why? Because I already have Smokey Southern in there. So why dirty up another dish, right? It's kind of perfect. What I'm going to put in this is the blend of buttermilk. Again, this is a buttermilk oven fried chicken. I'm adding buttermilk, I'm adding the Smokey Southern, and I'm adding just a little touch of Creole seasoning too. I like not only the little bit of heat, but I like that balanced flavor. There's also smoked paprika in the Creole, so those two kind of work together nicely. And I'm adding my favorite hot sauce. If you were able to get a hold of the summer seasonal kit, you found that this was the cutest little serendipity that was in that kit. Again, we put it there because it is our favorite hot sauce. It's more than heat, it's balanced, has flavor. It's just really, really fantastic and doesn't blow you out with heat the way Tabasco can, the way Sriracha can. I'm kind of crazy about Cholula. The truth is, I actually even travel with it, which is what gave us the idea of these cute little kinds of bowls. We're gonna add this right to, and then we're gonna do just a little bit of a whisk of the buttermilk together with the spices, the hot sauce. Only thing that remains is we're gonna add just a little touch of lemon juice. Lemon will help to go together with what we have in the buttermilk to be able to very quickly start to give a little bit of flavor, a little tenderization that goes with it as well. So I'm gonna do just a really quick cut. Those of you that might still have your citrus squeezer that came with our winter blend know that it's so easy to add just a little touch of lemon. I popped these lemons into the microwave for about 30 seconds before we began. What that does is it releases the juice into, or releases the juice out of the lemon, so it comes just beautifully out of that little citrus squeezer. Once we have that in play, we're ready to move on and get started with our chicken. Now, Nicole will tell you that this particular recipe is very near and dear to her heart. Why? Because when she was about, how old, Nicole? 5 or 6? 5 years old, Nicole went on the Today Show and cooked this chicken. It was called Crunchy Chicken, and it's just a way to really get kids involved. And so, again, whether you have kids, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, again, it's an awesome opportunity to get them cooking because they get to do something really fun.
And speaking of children, we need to make sure to also add in that your other child, Danielle, was also on the Today Show, and we did it together because we're just that great of sisters.
That is exactly right, and Danielle would be very happy that we did exactly that. So, and everyone watching who loves Danielle as much as we do. What's fun about this is you put cereal. We chose cornflakes because it works so beautifully. This is kind of like an old style kind of a recipe, and it's absolutely perfect. We put 3 cups of cornflakes into a Ziploc bag. You wouldn't have to do it this way. You could do it a little fancy and put it into a food processor or put it into anything that's going to do the crunching. But if you put it into the Ziploc bag, you can easily crunch it with a pie roller or even just with your hands, which is where the kids come in because it's just so fun. We did a little crunching of ours beforehand because we didn't think you wanted to listen to that as much. To this, we're also, again, going to be adding our Smokey Southern. We're going to add a little bit of Creole.
And if you're crunching right now, we know that you may not even be hearing what we're saying, and we know that it will take you, it'll take about 4 or 5 minutes to really get it to the texture and consistency that you want. So keep crunching away.
Keep crunching.
And get it the way that you want, and it'll turn out really great. I'm gonna zoom in on it so they can kind of see the size
of the crunch.
So this started as just a cornflake.
Classic.
Yep, just a classic cornflake, and we just crunched and crunched. So there are some larger pieces, some smaller.
And that's great, actually, because you want that rustic kind of look. Just shake it. Again, this is like that old shake and bake, and I know it's a really fun thing to kind of put it together. And then leaving the bag as kind of your tool, what you're going to be adding to this is now the chicken. It gives you an opportunity to dip in bread in a very, very easy way. To set us up for what we're doing, we have a pan that has a rack on it, just a cooling rack that you would use for cookies or any kind of cooling rack. It's going to lift up the chicken tenders as they're on the baking sheet, which is going to enable them to cook all the way around and all the way through. Before we get too excited about it though, I want to move over and check on those croutons. Who's thinking?
You are thinking.
Oh no. Nice, look at those.
Yeah,
so already we're
Southern.
starting to get a little bit of the color that's starting to happen. We're gonna let those go just a little bit longer. And again, you can do as many of these as you want. Again, I do them, I usually do a lot at a time because again, they keep so well and keep so nicely. So we'll give those just a couple more minutes, which should be about right for when we're ready to put our chicken into the oven as well. So we have our chicken tenders. We've already have taken them out of the package. We have about 12 of them. If there's any additional fat or little tissues or muscles, you can cut that away in advance, but they're usually pretty easy and pretty clean to work with. Literally going to do an easy little process here. We're gonna put about 3 of these into the buttermilk and let that just kind of cover itself in the buttermilk seasoning blend. And then 3 at a time, we're gonna throw those right into the corn mixture. And then this is where the fun comes in, because all you're doing is shaking. Now, again, you can be more sophisticated. You could put these onto a sheet pan. You could roll them quite nicely. You could do it in a classic Martha Stewart way, but why not have fun with your food, right? If you can't have fun, it's not fun. So we're just gonna lay those right out. You'll see that they cover nicely. If you have a little bit exposed, just sprinkle a little bit of that right on top and then keep on going. Another 3. We found that about 3 is what works in this. More than that, and you just don't get the coverage that you're really seeking to do. Again, you can make a lot of these at one time, and you can make a few of them at one time. No need to go for the whole Monty if you're trying to do a smaller family or just yourself. I will tell you that we made these in advance yesterday just to make sure that oven worked and all those things were in play, and they were absolutely delicious to have for lunch again today. So they heat up quite nicely.
And we suggest that you do about 3 to 4 per person. So if you are, you know, like when I've done this, I'm doing it for myself and my junior spice girl who's 8. And I just cook, you know, 6 to 8 and get 1 package and not do a whole 12. Though having leftovers always benefits a busy mom.
It really does. Sometimes you're just better. We get a lot of questions. Is this the kind of dish that you can make them in advance and freeze them? Haven't had a lot of success with that. They just don't have that crispiness that you would need. I have had success though with actually baking them and then freezing them, but you can't really get in advance of it, get it prepped, and then get it in the freezer.
Now, one thing that you could do to prep though, that I've seen you do before, is get them into the buttermilk marinade and do that earlier,
right?
And then dip them in the corn flakes and bake later.
Yeah, I actually really love doing that because the buttermilk has this beautiful chance to marinate and actually start to tenderize. Let's face it, chicken tenders are pretty tender in and of themselves, but a little bit of buttermilk, it really does help a lot. I've done that even overnight with chicken. I've done this exact same thing with fish. The only warning I would give is you don't want to let the fish stay in buttermilk too long because the acidity that's in the buttermilk actually starts cooking the fish. So again, with chicken though, you can even do it overnight. It's great with pork chops, really a fun thing to do. Again, it's a buttermilk oven fried kind of pork chop, fish, or chicken. Again, everyone's favorite chicken tenders. So again, just lay these in, and then we're gonna check our croutons and get this right into the oven. All good to go, Nicole?
They look great.
They really do. Okay, beautiful. I'm gonna lay this here. Let's try to do a 1-2 punch and try to pull some of the croutons out, and I think they're perfection. See, take a look at that. Just the right kind of toasty brown, golden brown, and delicious. You'll start to see that coming across on the crust. Again, get those out and pop these in. Now, generally with poultry, you're gonna wanna let it cook up to an internal temperature of at least 150. 150 will enable it to get high enough that then with carryover cooking, it will cook upwards of that goal, which is around 160 to 165 for poultry. We don't cook pork or beef quite that high, but with poultry, we kind of keep it right around that line. It should take anywhere between 14 and 20 minutes. That sounds funny to say, but it's all about your size of the chicken tenders you bought. It's all about how cold those chicken tenders tenders were when they came out of the refrigerator, and it's all about how accurate your oven actually is. So at about 14 minutes, we're gonna take our trusty digital thermometer. Again, any of you that got our seasonal kit also got this. It's a digital thermometer, and we'll be using that to check in just a little bit.
Yeah, and we chose the digital thermometer because we realized that almost every recipe that we've made in the club so far, we say, now check the temperature. And when people ask us, well, how long do we leave it in? We say, well, check the temperature.
Check
and so
the temperature.
We decided it was definitely time to make sure that you are empowered with a great digital thermometer. And we like how it folds up so that it can stay a little nicer in your drawer.
Right. Okay, so we've got the croutons done. We have the chicken in the oven. So now time to do just a little bit of cleanup. New kitchen after all. And move on to our dressing. This is a Caesar dressing that honestly, I think you may discover is one of your favorite. My bet is that many of you might not have made a Caesar dressing before, and for good reason. It's a little intimidating somewhat. It's a raw egg, or in these days, maybe a coddled egg. It's thinking through how to smash those anchovies. It's things you don't want to even think about that are in Caesar dressing, but indeed they are. This one is just incredibly delicious and incredibly good for you, which is kind of the hallmark, as you know, of all of our PS flavor recipes. It's a buttermilk Caesar, so yes, it has buttermilk, it has Greek yogurt. That's what's giving the body. No eggs, but interestingly, that's why we put the deviled eggs on this salad, because we wanted to bring that kind of sense, that feeling of a Caesar salad, but it's cooked eggs as compared to that raw egg. It's one that you cook or put together in your food processor. So I'm gonna pull that up, and then we're gonna move into our ingredients that go into it.
Now, while she's food processing, it's a little hard to hear, so we'll watch and see what happens. And then will you just let us know about how far you like to take it? So if they're processing at their own home, what should they be looking for?
When it comes to the dressing, really we're using a cheese, Parmesan cheese, obviously. You can use one that you have already bought shredded. You can shred it yourself. You're not wanting to use the kind that's in the green can, although no judgment here, fine to do. Always better to get either a fresh shredded or, again, shred it yourself. I have a little block of Parmesan Reggiano that I'm gonna actually use later to do a little bit of shaving right on top of the salad, but that's really more for garnish. The big key with this when making the dressing is we're gonna start with that parm, but then we're gonna add the garlic and lemon and mustard and anchovy paste and let that blend until we really see it into a nice, even consistency. There'll still be a little texture of the cheese, but not so much. So it works out really nicely. So as I said, let's start with the lemon. Let's start with about 4 cloves of garlic that hopefully you already have chopped. If not, this is a great time to stop. And the truth is, because we're doing a food processor, you could just do a rough chop and maybe stop right now and let the garlic chop a little bit before you start to add some of your other ingredients. I came along and did a little chopping on my own, so fine to come in and then add the Dijon mustard. 2 tablespoons, and 2 tablespoons of anchovy paste. Yes, I know the question, can I leave it out? Yes, you can of course leave it out. But the truth is, you've been eating Caesar salad, if you like Caesar salad, with dressing, with anchovy paste, maybe your whole life. So although it might seem a little strange and maybe was hard to find, you find it in the Italian section oftentimes of your grocery store. It comes in a little tube, and literally just measure out that 2 tablespoons. Nicole was getting the grocery list together for us yesterday. She actually texted me and said, is that 2 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons? I said, it's 2 tablespoons. It's perfect. So we're gonna get that in and let that do a little bit of blending, if I can get my food processor to work appropriately. This is another one of those things I had to dig up a little bit. Okay, food processor, be nice to me. Okay, good.
Here she goes.
So that everyone can breathe and say thank goodness. We're going to add 2/3 of a cup of the Parmesan cheese right into that and let that continue to blend. Such a fun time with that. Okay, here we go again.
All I could think about was the people that just tuned in for the first time and thought, is it always this loud?
I know, you would think they could make it a little bit quieter.
Let's go over the things you put in while we couldn't hear you very well.
Okay.
I saw yogurt.
Yes, we first started with lemon juice, garlic, Dijon mustard, the anchovy paste. Let that blend. We added the buttermilk and the Greek yogurt. And then once that's blended, then I drizzled in the olive oil. The olive oil is all Creole seasoning, of course. I added in the olive oil always at the end because that's when it gets the best emulsification. You want to get all of your seasonings in. Always keep your spoons close by. That's where you adjust your taste, but I don't think there's anything to adjust. It's so, so good. Little bite of the Parmesan. So back to your question, Nicole, how long do you know? Absolutely perfect. We let it go long enough or as long as we couldn't take the noise any longer. So we're really good with that. All good?
Wonderful.
Okay. So now it's time to move on. I'm gonna pull this off, be ready to go with that.
And at what point do you check on the chicken? Do you wait until that
magic 14 minutes has come up? Always good to kind of take a little look because it's so beautiful and you want to get a little look of that. You'll start to see that already there's a little bit of browning that's going on, a little bit of golden brown that's happening with those cornflakes as they're starting to go. Nothing wrong with doing a little bit of checking with the thermometer just to see where you're actually going with it. And just like if you were doing a turkey or anything else, you always want to go into the thickest part of the breast. This still has a long, 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 long way to go. It's actually made it up to a high temperature of 103. So
103,
we still have a ways to go, so no
50 to
worries.
go.
Kim, is there a question?
Yes. So Rita's asking, how is anchovy paste made? How do they make that?
So anchovy paste is made with anchovies, just as you would expect, but rather than us having to deal with the anchovies are literally put into a very large food processor. It's a manufacturing facility. They're usually dried just a little bit before they go into that. All that's in anchovy paste is just the anchovies themselves, a little bit of salt, no preservatives. People that have a fish allergy, not a seafood allergy, but a fish allergy, always have to be aware about Caesar salad because of having those anchovies in them. Really delicious.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so nice. I'm gonna leave my Parmesan out because we'll use that in just a little bit for our garnish. I'm gonna take this away. All making sense? And now it's time to move on to our deviled eggs. Now the deviled eggs are, as I said, the most classic form of a deviled egg you can make. You can take it as fun. You can take it any way you'd like it to go. As I mentioned, you can put pickled onions in them. You can actually pickle the eggs. That's a really hit thing to do right now, where you hard cook the egg and peel it and then put it into a red wine vinegar where it takes on that beautiful color. You can smoke the eggs. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. We're gonna do a very simple kind of a blending. Again, classic Southern deviled eggs. There used to be said that you would never find a after church buffet or supper unless somebody brought the deviled eggs. It's almost required in a Southern function. Now, I will tell you that if you haven't yet boiled your eggs, you're probably going to want to stop right now or decide that you really don't need deviled eggs on this Caesar salad. You're going to be good to go with the chicken, with the croutons, and with the lettuce. But if you did boil them, again, Google boiling eggs. You can boil them in water. You can, again, as soon as they come to a boil, put a lid on it. You can just let them simmer. I'm a fan, actually have been accused of being a diva of the Instant Pot. Those of you that got it on the Amazon Prime special got a really great deal. The thing that's amazing about cooking them in an Instant Pot is it steams them. It takes only 5 minutes, and then you let it rest for just a bit. And when you go to peel it, you're really almost unwrapping it. So have you ever seen a more beautiful egg? All that we're gonna do with this is just literally slice them right in two. Again, because I cooked them in the Instant Pot, there are no green rings. They're absolutely just perfect. And if you're wondering, what in the world is an Instant Pot? Google that too. There's a whole culture that's all about the Instant Pot. So we're just gonna do a little slice of these. And we're gonna be using both the yellow and the white. There's many of you that might feel like eggs should, deviled eggs shouldn't be consumed right now because aren't eggs bad for you? And my bet is that you probably have also picked up on some of the news that actually eggs are really incredible. That old slogan of the incredible edible egg, indeed they are. Even people that have high cholesterol, your cholesterol doesn't rise because of eating an egg or an egg yolk, although the egg yolk does indeed contain cholesterol. It's the kind of cholesterol that doesn't convert to blood cholesterol. It's only when you put it together with some saturated fat that you really get that. Once you get these sliced, you're just gonna slip those egg yolks right into the bowl. And again, you can see I like to use a lot of the same bowls. We're gonna then use the egg yolks to add mayonnaise. I love to use an olive oil mayonnaise, not because of the olive oil, but the truth is it turns out to be a lighter mayonnaise without being a diet mayonnaise or being a fat-free. It's just a better kind of fat that's in it, very much like making an olive oil aioli. With that, we're also going to be using some Dijon mustard, and because I'm Southern, a little bit of pickle relish as well. Just going to pop those out and speed up the process.
Now, how many are you making?
Well, the recipe obviously calls for making a dozen, not necessary to do. When I boil eggs in the Instant Pot, I'll oftentimes boil a dozen at a time because they keep so nicely for boiled in the shell for a good 7 days or more. If you take them out of the shell, they'll keep really nicely for about 4 or 5 days. So great to do. So again, can make really as many as you want to do. I actually went through the process of making these in the Instant Pot, but then I actually had to try one. So we're not making quite a dozen. We're then gonna just break up those yolks just a little bit, and then we're gonna add the remaining ingredients to make this that classic deviled egg stuffing. Don't have to go all the way with breaking them. These were farm eggs, so you can see that bright yellow yolk. It's really amazing.
So that's the mayo that you're putting in now?
It's the mayo. We're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard as well. And about a tablespoon of pickle relish.
And I notice when you get Dijon mustard that you usually tend toward more of the country Dijon, so that it has the coarser mustard, the coarser grains. Is that
preference?
Okay.
I love the little bit of a bite that you get from it as compared to the smooth Dijon. So I'll get a coarse grain mustard. I'll oftentimes get a Creole mustard. Mustards are very, very fun, but always a Dijon country style as compared to that bright yellow mustard that you might have put on hot dogs growing up. A little bit better way to go. So you see this becomes just this creamy goodness. We're gonna add just a little touch of Creole seasoning to this, but we're gonna be topping them then with some of the Smokey Southern as our garnish. So similar, just get that mixed up. Always go in for a taste. Nicole always laughs because I love everything that we tend to make. So really delicious. I think it's even gonna be delicious with rosé. So once done, then literally come back and just fill those eggs. You can again get all fancy and put this into a pastry bag and pipe it out. And in doing that, you can do some really beautiful little layering, and you can even, rather than cutting them like this, you can cut them in half lengthwise and stack them, a little flat bottom, and then do almost a cone shape when you pipe it in from that piping bag. If you were gonna garnish this, as I mentioned, with a pickled onion or a little slice of pickled okra or pickled onion, jalapeno rather, this is the point that you would use those as a garnish. You would come right back around and add that right to the top. We're instead going to use, again, the Smokey Southern. Smokey Southern is one of my favorite things to cook eggs with. It's delicious in scrambled eggs and absolutely delicious when you're putting it in here. Once you get these made, again, they will keep beautifully for you in the refrigerator for about 4 to 5 days. So if you're making them, make a lot of them. They become a really easy and fun way to get a little protein bite, either for a snack or even for a breakfast.
And one of the things that I really liked about using the Smokey Southern for this is I tend to use Smokey Southern on anything. I would use paprika.
Yes.
It's like using paprika, but with a lot more depth.
With a lot more depth,
and
right?
so whenever I think of paprika, even we used to put paprika on macaroni and cheese.
Right.
I put Smokey Southern on macaroni and cheese.
Might be good if I use Smokey Southern rather than using Creole, which I love to do as well. And again, just that little tiny sprinkle. When you're garnishing, always go very high with your hand so that you have a little bit more control when you're sprinkling onto the eggs themselves. So again, that would be perfect as a dish in and of itself. You really don't have to do anything more than just sit back, take these somewhere and enjoy them, but we're gonna take it a little extra place because we have a salad to make. So gonna let those stay and be beautiful. Kim, are you getting hungry over there?
Oh, it smells delicious.
Awesome. Okay, time to check this chicken. So again, golden brown and delicious is what we're looking for. Nice.
How's our temp?
So we've got these up to right at 140.
Okay.
So we're gonna probably let those go just a little touch longer. And while they're finishing off, we'll go ahead and get together our lettuce that's gonna go into the salad.
Great.
Okay, so deviled eggs are made, cheese is ready to be our garnish. We're gonna be doing a blend, not necessary, but doing a blend of both romaine, which is quite classic in a Caesar salad, but in addition to that, we're gonna be adding some kale. Now, you can take it any way you would like. You could just go with Caesar. Goodness, you could go with iceberg as far as that goes, but anything that you prefer to do, If you do use kale, I like to use baby kale in it because the baby kale is just a little more tender, not quite as bitter. So it works really beautifully in this particular salad. Get your big salad bowl. Again, no reason to, again, dirty up another one. I've washed the romaine, I've dried it, and then had it in the refrigerator so that it would stay really nice and chilled and cold. Again, the reason I love this particular slicing knife is, first of all, it fits so nicely in my hand, but it's really beautiful for just running that blade right through the greens without bruising them, without tearing them, and it makes a really beautiful, almost a chopped romaine salad. This is actually exactly the technique that I use if I'm doing a taco salad or if I'm doing a chopped salad. I really like to have it shredded. And again, this knife is kind of perfect for doing that, so someone will be quite lucky if they end up getting it. You take it right down to the core and then go on to the next one. You can kind of take it a little bit tight right at the end so that you get a nice shred, holding it a little bit tight, but you really want the knife to do the work for you. It's going to be a little different when we go into the kale because it doesn't have the same kind of attachment as the romaine has right at the end.
And I'll go ahead and say, if you're looking at this petite slicer and thinking, now why is my knife not cutting quite the same as that, and you'd like the opportunity to win one, all that you need to do is after the class or anytime until July 31st, post a picture of your meal. When you post that picture, that will give you one entry into the giveaway. And if you get in your picture, that will give you a second entry. We love to see our club chefs. So give us a little picture of you with your meal and we'll make sure to get 2 entries in there.
Okay, now with the kale, as I said, a little bit different. I just like to get it all right onto the cutting board and then kind of just do almost a little roll with it, almost as if you were doing a tortilla roll or as if you were doing a sushi roll. And with that roll, then I'm going to use my knife to, again, do the same thing. Just slice right through it. Again, these are tender baby leaves. If it was full-on kale, large leaves, I would do a little more care with it. I would probably actually, and this is a funny term to talk about with kale, but I would massage the leaves a little bit with some olive oil and just a little salt, a little lemon juice. It starts to tenderize the kale and makes it a little easier, not only for the shredding, but a little more delicious for the eating of it as well. Once I do that one slice, because it's the larger leaves, then I'm gonna turn the cutting board, put it all back together, and then just repeat the process. One more time, running the slicer right along it, and I have my shredded kale.
Now we went with 5 ounces or 5 cups of the kale and 7 of the romaine. Not really because of a taste preference with that, with the blending, but because often in the grocery store that's how they come,
that's exactly
in 7
right.
ounces and 5 ounces.
Yes.
So we wanted to make that easy for you. But use what you like. So
Right.
if you like a little more kale, bump that up. If you prefer, like Pam said, all romaine, just go with all romaine. Either way, you'll do great. We had a question come in from Ms. Sue Kramer saying, could you do a sushi class for us?
Oh, we might make that a special class. What do you think? We'll take a little bit of thought around that. Once you have that in play, all that we're going to add to this is some tomatoes, the croutons. Again, I tend to not go ahead and toss the croutons in with the Caesar the tomatoes right in with the lettuce because it tends to get lost. So I'll tend to do the toss with the kale and the romaine in this case, and then I'll use the tomatoes more as a garnish. But to see if we're ready to go, and I think we are with the chicken, let's take one final look. Get our thermometer on. We'll go to that first area. And we are good to go.
Hooray.
Fantastic. So I've let this come up to right around 155,
Okay.
which again, by the time it rests for just a moment while we're putting the rest of the salad together, we'll be able to see that come to exactly what it should be.
Yeah, if you haven't joined us for our other classes, one, we've missed you, and two, you will have learned that we usually account for about 5 degrees of carryover cooking. So getting these to that 155 and then pulling them out allows it to get to 160 just while it's sitting and hanging out.
Having a good time. That applies to almost anything that you cook. Beef, pork tenderloin, definitely a turkey. When you pull a turkey out at Thanksgiving or anytime you're having a turkey, you want that to rest upwards of 40 minutes. The bigger the bird or the bigger the piece of meat, the longer that it needs to rest. And in the resting process, the juices that have come to the outside instead go right to the middle again. If you've ever cut into a piece of meat and it kind of releases all of its juices out into the cutting board, it's where all the flavor is. Instead, you want to let it rest so that it permeates throughout the meat again. So, time to do a little tossing, and let's get this show on the road. We're going to add our Caesar dressing right to this blend of the lettuce.
And how much are you adding?
Again, we made the recipe so that it works perfectly with this large amount of lettuce, but I always add just a little bit first. You just don't know how it's going to pick up the dressing, and then I'll come back and add just a little bit more.
It seems like at restaurants you just never know if it's going to be overly dressed or under, and so it seems like there's kind of a perfect balance.
There really
Caesar
is, and it's funny because almost all the time I will order a salad undressed in a restaurant. Caesar is the exception. You really do need to get it well tossed. Otherwise, you tend to have just this glob of dressing. So in a restaurant, I'll generally say lightly dressed and have them bring just a little bit to the side. As you can see, I used really only about half of the dressing, but yet it's got perfect coverage with the romaine and with the kale. Again, can always bring a little bit to the table and add just a little bit more as needed.
And with the leftover dressing, if they are going to have extra and be very happy later on for leftovers, how long can that be refrigerated?
Beautifully for up to a month. I mean, it
great.
just has great things in it. The yogurt, the lemon juice, all things that keep it together. I love to keep it in a mason jar so that I can just shake it up a little bit. There's not a whole lot of separation that goes on with it because there's very little bit of oil, so it works out quite nicely. So then it's time to plate. Again, you could just bring this big, beautiful bowl of salad right to the table and then serve your chicken tenders to the side. Or if you decided to do some plating for your guests, that works out well too. And you can go any way you'd like. I tend to like to mound the salad up a little bit on the side.
Beautiful.
Isn't it now?
Well, I like what the romaine does with the kale, where you've got kind of that dark, vibrant green, but you've also got that lighter green.
And the texture with it is just so beautiful too. And then we're going to sprinkle just a little bit of Parmesan on that. And then take some of our tenders, just lay them right up against the dressing. Who's hungry here? Should we do 2 or 3?
I think we should do 3.
3 sounds great, but who's counting? And then we'll take our deviled eggs and we'll lay those right up on top of the salad as well.
So
and then just because you can, if you do have some block of Parmesan, just to give that little sense of something unique and different, just take your paring tool and just put a few little ribbons of the Parmesan right on top. That can easily be left out, but it just adds a little nice little garnish if you would like to do it. You could certainly sprinkle the whole thing with Smokey Southern. We tend to like to do that too, but pretty much we have a meal and a really delicious one at that. So, what are we thinking? I'm wondering how it's going to work and how it's going to work with You're probably wondering why I didn't plate 2 of those, right?
Well, I think you are going to need to do that.
I think
and
so.
I don't see the croutons. Are they in there? Did I miss it?
You did miss those croutons. That is so awesome that you decided to come around and help with the function. So again, you have a choice. You could either toss those croutons right into the salad, and I do love to do that if I would have not forgotten them, or you can do what I'm doing here. They stay
I actually
nice and
like
toasty.
seeing them right there on the top, because sometimes when you put them in, they can also get a little soggy.
They can.
So,
they can. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, they
I'm
look
so glad
beautiful.
you turned around. That must mean you were hungry for croutons.
Always hungry.
I know. So good. So you ready for a great meal?
I am, and we hope you're ready for a great meal. If you have any questions, if you're still cooking and anything comes up, don't hesitate to write. We are always there. We want to answer anything that you want while you're making your delicious meal. Don't forget to post a picture and get yourself in it if you would like 2 entries for the giveaway. The giveaway is for this petite slicer from Cutco.
Yes.
Beautiful model.
Yes, I know.
And we have more classes coming up.
We do.
So as Pam said, we just started the summer. This is our first summer class. And if you're thinking, it's not the beginning of summer. Summer started when my kids all of a sudden were home every day. It's summer because this is when the season started. So it started June 21st, and we had just finished our June class. So this month we've been gearing up for this July class. And then in August, we are doing our Moroccan blend in Moroccan meatball, or Moroccan meatballs.
Moroccan, yes.
Yes, Moroccan meatballs over a delicious summer vegetable orzo. And it is so delicious. If you haven't had it, if you haven't had Pam's orzo before, we think you're going to love it in your own kitchen. And we're also going to be starting the Epcot Food and Wine Festival soon.
Just 2 days later. Our next class is August 28th, and that's when we'll be doing the Moroccan. The Moroccan spice is kind of a harissa type of a flavor. It's just power-packed with flavor. We're going to use that in that dish, but we're also going to be using it in a couple more in the months that follow.
We are, and then we'll be at Food and Wine the second day of the festival on August 31st. So if you're in Orlando, we hope you'll come join us. But we kind of love that we get to do a demo and cooking with you every month, whether you're at Food and Wine or not. This is kind of our year-round food and wine, and we love it.
Yes, and we're thrilled you came into our kitchen. This kitchen has been a labor of love. Again, we all are kind of thinking, wow, we're really in this, and it's been great. We've had so many friends that have helped us and really partnered with us to do some great things. We have Steve and Tracy, we have Dave, we have our incredible friends at Aggressive Appliance, Tina and Jerry and Doug. The list goes on and on. Dina, it's just really incredible.
I know, and I'm excited that we finally have your Thermidor.
We do. People ask me all the time, what are your favorite knives to cook with? That answer is an easy one. It's Cutco. And what's your favorite appliances? And I've always have said Thermidor because I cook on Thermidor all of the 75 days at the Epcot Food and Wine Festival.
For decades. She's been saying Thermidor
including
for
an
decades.
Induction cooktop. So more to come on that, and I'm thrilled to have a kitchen that has those Thermidor. Really fun. So thank you all for joining us. Have a really great time. I've got a glass of wine. I don't know what happened
I think
to
mine
yours.
went over here, but we need one more toast
I
because
think we do.
someone missed the toast at the beginning.
Oh my goodness.
So if
Not
you
possible.
missed the toast at the beginning, grab your glass and to a delicious meal, to family, to our family cooking in your other kitchens. You all in the club are our family, and we're so thankful to be cooking with you. Enjoy your meal. Let us know if you have questions.
And cheers and bon appetit.